Hey photographer, do you want to edit faster and smarter? Then let AI do the heavy lifting for you. In today's video, I'm showing you 2 Photoshop plugins that can transform your editing workflow in seconds. So let's talk about it. Whether you love it, hate it, fear it, or plain just don't know where to begin when it comes to everything that is AI now in the photography and video world, I hear you. I hope that this video ends up being encouraging to you and hopefully makes AI a little bit more approachable if this is a new world that you're kind of diving into right now. I'm definitely not a quote unquote gear bro. I'm not a review channel. I'm just a regular portrait photographer that is always looking for ways to speed up my processes and have better workflows so that I can become more profitable and spend less time in my business. And editing has notoriously always been a sticking point for me, and I think for most photographers you can relate to that. So although I think just outsourcing your work in general to an editor is probably going to be your best bet if you don't want to touch editing at all and you don't want to have to do anything with that, sometimes it can be out of reach or out of budget, and I think tools like Photoshop plugins can be a great way to offload some of that work and still have a personal touch if you don't want to, like, if you're not ready to totally give up your editing. I understand that, and it also, again, can be a little bit more affordable, easier way to approach this. So before I jump into my computer, just full transparency, this video is not sponsored, but I was reached out by this company, Retouch For Me, asking if I would be willing to kind of play around, test out a few of their plugins in exchange for a review. And I made sure to ask. I said, well, if I do that, is there anything I have to say? Is there any boundaries? And they quickly said, no, you can say whatever you want. We love your channel, etc. And I said, awesome. So absolutely, these are my honest thoughts and opinions, but I just wanted to be full transparency that I did receive these plugins in order to make these reviews. So sometimes that bothers people, so I wanted to be totally upfront. So without that further ado, let's jump into the computer and I'll show you the 2 plugins that I'm most excited about that I think is going to be really exciting for you too if you're a portrait photographer. Okay, so I know I said I had 2 plugins to show you, but I actually have 3. So first thing, because I just have a couple different scenarios I want to show you, and I think they're great for different things. So the first thing I would always do before using a plugin is making a background copy or a layer copy. So I like to say Command J, which is the keyboard shortcut, just so you always can go back if you need to on your work. And so once you make your copy and you have your plugins already installed, to use them, you'll go up to Filter, and then it'll show up Retouch For Me down here, and then all your plugins that you have loaded will show up here in the drop down menu. And the first thing I want to show you is the Dodge and Burn one, and I want to show you a studio example and mature skin, because I feel like that's the ultimate test on like the power of these tools and see if they just blur the skin or how realistic it looks. So I definitely wanted to use that. And I would say this in real time, this is what it is in real time. It takes probably 5 to 10 seconds, depending on how fast your computer is. My computer is a little ancient, not gonna lie. It's at least like 8 years old, so yours is probably gonna be much faster. So the first thing I would do is check that you want a soft light layer. You do not have to do this, but I like it because it allows you to just work on the layer a little bit better and more separately than just applying the settings if you need to adjust it. And then down here is where you can adjust the results. So the blend, I usually like it in the middle for this one, but you can increase it. You can kind of look on his jacket, see where it's like catching the shadows and the dodging and the burning. I'll show you a closer look at the skin. So, but I usually like it in the middle on the default. You can also adjust it here on like how, if it's not the exact results, you can adjust if it's the full length portrait, half, and then close up, and it kind of refines the details there. So I'm going to go ahead and hit apply, and then don't freak out. This is just going to show you the masking of what it's catching in order to do the dodge and burn. And so you just come over to your, come over here to your blend mode, and you're going to go to soft light because it's the soft light layer. And then I'm going to zoom in so you can see this a little bit better in action. And so this is, so I'm going to take it off. So that's without, and that's with. Off, on, which I love, because what the biggest thing is it keeps the skin texture, which is huge for me, especially because of guys. I've had other AI plugins that just kind of like blur their skin, and I don't always want that. I want to blur the skin the way I want to. So again, off, you can kind of see down, even down here, and some of his moles. It just kind of takes care of that and like cleans it up, but it still looks like his texture skin. And same thing with hers. And she's got a little bit heavier wrinkles. And so again, taking it off, taking it on, boom, just like that. And I'm very happy with that. Even it picks up in their clothes, which again, you can modify. I'm going to turn it off one more time and back on. So I think it does a really good job. So this is a studio example. And now I want to show you an outdoor example. So again, the lighting is going to be a little softer. That's the way I shoot, but again, I'll make a layer copy, and then I'll just go up to that filter, retouch for me, dodge and burn. And then I'm going to let it run its course. I have my soft layer checked. I'm going to apply. And then you can see all the highlights of where it's doing the dodging and burning. And then you're going to go up here to the blending mode, soft light. I'm going to zoom in so you can get a better look. Again, I'm going to toggle off that layer. And you can see it here. You can see in her skin, under her eyes, where it's going to catch. So I'm going to put it back on. And there you go. And I think it's beautifully, it's soft. It helps fill in like the shadows. And I think it does a really good job. This next plugin I want to show you that I'm really excited about is for any of you that shoot in the studio and have ever wanted to rip your hair out for having to clean up the background. So this plugin is going to help clean your background, which I really am excited about. So again, we're going to make a layer copy, and I'm going to go up to filter, retouch for me, clean backdrop. And then this is cool. You can kind of customize to what you want it to pick up. There's a coarse dirt one, a medium, and fine dirt. So I'm going to use fine dirt for this one. And again, you can adjust the blend, but I usually do 100% on this one, and you can do a mask too. I'm going to go ahead and hit apply for the sake of this video, and I'm going to zoom in so you guys can see all that it picked up. So again, I'm toggling off. You can see all this dirt in here, and then apply on. And what I really love about this clean backdrop plugin is it's not filling in just with color. You can see it keeps the integrity of all the shadows, so it looks realistic. It's not just filling in with color. It's actually being smart and picking up all the dirt. So again, I'm going to zoom in. I'm going to toggle off. You can see look at all these little scratches. And then toggle on pick up. And I will say this, the clean backdrop Photoshop plugin runs a little slower than the others, but I think it is doing a little bit more. It's got more to pick up. So I also think it does really well on like plain color backdrops. That seems to be when it does its best job. So this would save me hours of time. So this alone is worth the price for sure. If you do studio work, I absolutely love this one. Now for outdoors, I would say it doesn't do as good of a job. It does a decent job, but it doesn't pick up everything. I think it's built more for a studio backdrop, but I wanted to show you an example for outdoors just in case, if you're curious. So again, I'm going to make a background copy, and I've got all these like leaves, dirt, and all that stuff on this sidewalk. I'm going to run the clean backdrop filter. And then I'm going to zoom in again so you can see a little bit what it did. So I'm going to toggle it off. So you see that it did catch all these little rocks and little stuff, and it did pick up all that. It just missed a couple bigger things like the leaf, and it didn't catch this stuff right here, which is probably not sure if I want that gone or not. So it still would save you a lot of time as far as all those little finite touches, and it might be clean enough for you depending on like the standard of your retouching and promise for clients. But I will say, I think the magic spot for this particular plugin is the studio, but it definitely can work on some outdoor spaces, and even just a few clicks over the course of 80 to 100 photos is going to save you a ton of time. So I wanted to show you an example for the outdoor. Last plugin I want to show you is the healing plugin, and this can be really good, and then sometimes it misses a little bit. So I'm going to show you a couple examples what that means. It largely depends on the subject that you're retouching and what their skin is like. When it does work, it works really well. So again, I'm going to layer copy. Let me zoom in so I can show you what I mean, because her skin's pretty clear, but she does have some texture on her forehead. So I'm going to see what the plugin can do with that. So I'm going to go up here to filter, the retouch for me, and heal. And again, you can always zoom in and play around with the sensitivity. So you can see here, it'll highlight all that it's picking up. And usually I leave it on 100, and then I'm going to hit apply. And again, we're going to zoom in so you can see better. So this is toggled off, so you can see it did grab a handful of her texture there and toggling on. It definitely gets the major bumps, and again, what I love about it is it keeps the texture of the skin. It doesn't just blur it out, which I really like. I will say you need to be careful if your client has moles or like a nose ring, because it'll sometimes take that with it. So I would, in that case, I would either just lower the opacity and then erase back what it thought was acne, but it was something you want to keep. So that's something I've had to like keep watching and recorrecting. And then I just wanted to show you an example of how it works with multiple people in an image. Again, I actually think it does a really good job trying to edit all of them at one time. So I'm going to zoom in on these cute little ladies. Of course, they just have a little bit of spots, acne, all the things. So that's before. And then again, we're going to do a background copy, go up to filter and heal. And I'm going to zoom in. It does a fantastic job. Again, I'll show you what it's picking up. You can even see how it has more on the girl on the left versus the right. I think it does a really smart job. So I'm just going to apply. I don't usually do a ton of masks on healing, but you absolutely can do the mask. So again, I'm going to zoom in and look at that. 5 seconds to clean up all that. Look at both of their foreheads. I mean, I think it's pretty incredible. Again, I would just touch up a few things, but that had saved me a ton of time there. And again, I would watch this because it picked up her freckles, which is, you know, I'd probably keep those, but worth it for me just to erase a little bit back so I can have the transformation here. I did reach out to the company Retouch for Me and ask them if they had any advice on how to like optimize this particular plugin. And they reached out really quickly. I love their customer service. They're really easy to work with, but they suggested that you can always run the plugin again to see if it give you better results on top of optimizing those different settings that we talked about. So I'm going to flatten the image. And then again, I'm going to make another layer copy. This is my workflow. You don't have to probably do this specifically, but I'm going to run healing again, and I'm going to see if it picked up any more. And it did look like it picked up more. So we're going to apply. And so let me go back to where we started. So that's before, and that's with running it twice, 10 seconds later. I mean, for me, that is worth it, because that would definitely take me longer than 10 seconds to do if I was just using the healing brush. Okay, so of course I'm going to drop their website down in the description box below so you can check them out, which is really cool. They have a try an online demo, so you can kind of try them for free, see kind of how it all works. You can kind of explore their page and see all the different options. This is what your cloud retouching is going to look like, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. If you want to look for the actual plugins that you buy, so like the one-time buys, you can come up here to products, and then you'll go over to the retouch plugins. And I quickly just want to go over their pricing. So of course I'm going to leave their website down in the description box below. They have lots of free and demo ones that you can try out. So you definitely can try out before you buy. And the first things that I'm going to go over is the actual plugins. So the one-time purchase that you just load in your Photoshop and you can use over and over, which is what I have. They have, again, they have a ton of different plugins. So even if the ones I didn't show you or what you're looking for, I would definitely look and browse over their website. They got a ton of good different plugins. So I'm just going to scroll down. They do currently have a sale, I guess. So it just depends on the time that you're watching this video. But so you're looking at, you know, in the 125 to 150 range, which I know at first it might seem a lot, but like I said, you would spin that with an editor in like a couple sessions. So this is way more affordable than going with an editor, and it can save you a ton of time. And even if it gets you back 1 or 2 hours of your time so that you can either have a life or take on another session, like how much is that worth it to you? And then they also have a cloud retouch options. So this is more of a subscription base, so it's a little bit more affordable per month. Depends on how many photos a month you do to see which one would be more worth it for you, but it might be a great option to start with and see if you like the plugins and decide if you want to just buy the plugin altogether or just keep the subscription base. So it's really cool. They have 10 AI plugins with each subscription, which is so cool. And they go by credits, and it says 1 photo equals 1 credit. And they even have a risk-free 14-day money-back guarantee, which I think is awesome. They're very transparent. They're very quick to respond. Customer service is great. And they've also been very helpful for me in troubleshooting a few things on my end and to make sure the plugins work at their best. So I've really enjoyed them as a company. And then last thing I'm going to touch on for the pricing, what's even cooler is they have a pay-as-you-go. I just saw this and I thought that was a really cool thing to do. So depending on, maybe you have a really busy month versus a month that's not very busy and you're worried about like credits and things rolling over, etc., you can literally pay per credit, which how cool is that? So maybe you just need, maybe it's your busy month and you just need a little extra help for maybe the fall. And so you need some retouching, but you don't need it all the time. Like, I think that's
So smart of them.
So if you would like to grab one or both of these plugins for yourselves, I do have a discount code for you down in the description box below. I have a code for you that will get you 20% off and also unlock some free cloud retouch bonuses for you. And let me know in the comments below, how do you feel about AI when it comes to photography and videography? I mean, do you think it's beneficial? Do you think it goes too far? I also have mixed reviews. I think there can be some really cool benefits that can really help photographers and videographers out, but I do think it can be abused and also be not ethical. So it's a tricky one, so I would love to hear your thoughts down in the description box below. And until next time, guys, I'll see you in the next one. Bye.